Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone present here. I am Saurabh Sonwani, an early career representative of iLEAPS and the convener of this program. With me, our co-convener Pallavi Saxena and Samina Shamsuddin, our scientific steering committee member of iLEAPS and iLEAPS IPO, respectively. We welcome you all to our fourth episode of Drive with iLEAPS on the Wheel of Science, a global interview series. Today, our guest is Dr. Perry Boileau from United Nations Environment Program. However, before introducing him, I would like to say a few words about iLEAPS. iLEAPS stands for Integrated Land Ecosystem Atmosphere Process Study. It is a global research project of Future Earth. It seeks to provide an understanding about how interacting physical, chemical, and biological process transport and transform energy and matter through the land-atmosphere interface. Like other Future Earth global research project, iLEAPS is a network to link iLEAPS scientists to key societal challenges related to health, biodiversity, climate, food, and fuel security, and ultimately to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It promotes scientific excellence through developing international science initiatives that are multidisciplinary through bringing together the modeling community with satellite, experimental, and field observational expert, and through enabling communication and networking across the international science community. It facilitates this initiative by acting as a communication hub and coordinator of worldwide scientific research in the field of ecosystem atmosphere exchange and the impact of those exchange on the key societal issues. Another very important initiative of iLEAPS is promotion of leadership in science through capacity building in developing countries, as well as through their early career scientist network by hosting workshop, ensuring timely and relevant science to be available through their website and training programs. Recently, we conducted an Earth and Environmental Day series 2021-22 targeting South Asia. We also organized iLEAPS Light Conference 2022, iLEAPS OSFlux Conference 2023. We have also successfully conducted a Global Curriculum Series 2022. As we know that there are several challenges faced by researchers in different fields of science and technology. So a motivation is always required to drive the enthusiasm to carry forward the research. The key to motivation is to follow the footsteps and journey of renowned esteemed researchers, academicians, and policy people that helped to set a remarkable goal. So this understanding has been behind the present program to provide researchers, especially early career researchers, an opportunity to imbibe knowledge, inspiration, and zeal to conduct their research in a direction that is fruitful for the welfare of society. With this brief introduction of iLEAPS, it's time to start our program with our guest, Dr. Perry, who has had a remarkable journey in the field of air quality, climate change impact, mitigation, green infrastructure, and policy-related aspect. So now, here I'm requesting Samina to introduce Dr. Perry. Now over to you, Samina.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you very much for a great introduction about iLEAPS. And thank you, Dr. Pierre. Welcome to the program. Please correct me with your name. Is it pronounced as Pierre Boileau? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, I muted during the introductions. Yes, that's perfect, Pierre Boileau.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so let me introduce Dr. Pierre. I'm so happy to do that. Welcome to the program. Dr. Pierre Boileau is currently the head of the Global Environmental Outlook Program at the United Nations Environment Program. And in this role, he is leading his team and over 200 experts to complete the 7th edition of the Global Environment Outlook, or GEO7. This more solution-focused assessment will build off of the findings of the 6th Global Environment Outlook published in March 2019, as well as 6 regional environmental assessments published in May 2016, which Pierre led. Pierre's team is also increasing its work with geo-collaborating centers and providing supporting services to member states and other stakeholders in the areas of capacity building, knowledge generation, and support for policy making. iLEAPS is really thankful to have you here, Pierre, and I'm sure that our early career researchers will benefit a lot to hear about your exciting journey to this level. And even I am looking forward to hear about your achievements and how you managed all this, and really welcome to this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samina, for the introduction of our guests. Sorry, Pierre, I was pronouncing your wrong. So, good afternoon to you, and welcome to our program. And now we are formally starting with our discussion about your career, education, and your experience. So, first of all, we just ask you to brief you about your education, career path, and collaboration that you had to help you to do the role that you have now. So we wish to start from here.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I am Canadian. I studied initially at the University of Ottawa in the capital of Canada. My degree was in chemistry, and as I approached my 4th year of the degree, I was asked to do a research project, and I did it on an area of atmospheric chemistry, the atmospheric chemistry of a chemical that very few people study, carbon disulfide. And that sort of got me very interested in the aspects of environment, got me interested in the aspects of not so much the laboratory areas of chemistry, but what happens in the natural environment in chemistry. When I finished my degree, I did actually work in a chemistry lab for quite some time, doing analysis using gas chromatographs and various other scientific instruments. But eventually moved into a lab that was doing environmental analysis of air quality samples from oil spills, and there were quite a number of compounds that evaporated off of the surface of water as the oil spill moved around, and so that really got me interested in how oceans and fresh water and others, how they are contaminated by different pollutants. I then decided to do a follow-up degree in environmental science. Later on in my career, I was already working, so it was sort of a mid-career change of career path. And I did an environmental science degree at the University of Royal Roads in Victoria, Canada, and graduated in 2005 in that degree. And that allowed me to move, I think, from sort of the more laboratory work to the more policy and science-focused work that I do now. I carried on from that degree to leave the Canadian federal government that I was working at the time, to work for an NGO on environmental standards, and then eventually for the International Energy Agency. And that's where my international work started. There, I was working on energy statistics, which were obviously connected to the impacts of climate change because of the heavy fossil fuel use that we have. And then eventually moved to the environment program here in Nairobi. And I've been here 8 years working on the different publications that UNEP issues on different environmental problems.
Thank you so much for your sharing about your education career path, and we can see that there is a lots of the things you already done, and there is a wide experience in the right from the atmospheric chemistry, analytical kind of the things, oil spills related pollution, ocean contamination, and um then after your contribution in UNEP. So as we know that you have also served for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and uh, OECD contributed a lot in the field of health people and healthy planet, and they have also published some report on air pollution and climate change that are having growing public health related issues. So what is your comment in this regard under the umbrella of healthy people and healthy planet?
Actually, that's a very timely question because we're exploring it again in Geo7. We did in Geo6 as well in the Global Environment Outlook. There is a very strong link between air pollution in particular, both indoor and outdoor air pollution, and different respiratory diseases and deaths associated with those respiratory diseases. We in Canada, when I was doing the analysis for the Canadian government, we estimated that there were several million deaths per year that were preventable due to outdoor air pollution mainly, is what we were studying at the time. But here in Nairobi and in the Global Environment Outlook, we also study the impact of indoor air pollution, mainly cooking on open fires, open flames in enclosed settings, and there are some significant impacts from that air pollution. I think the statistic in the Global Environment Outlook was that there are 7 million deaths annually that are preventable if we could reduce the amount of air pollution. And so I think it's very, very closely connected to health, this air pollution component. There are also many deaths associated with water pollution, poor sanitation, and actual chemicals ending up in the water pollution in water sources. And so those are also of great concern. Climate change is also a health risk because of heat-related illnesses, heat-related deaths, also deaths related to environmental disasters. We've heard recently over the last year about the number of deaths related to wildfires. Those are increasing in intensity. And so we have a number of deaths related to environmental disasters caused by climate change. So there's quite a lot to look at in this area, and we are continuing to do so in UNEP.
Thank you so much for this satisfactory insight. So as we know that we have experienced a lot about the wildfire, and recently we have experienced pandemic, and there was so much change was happened right from the lockdown, shutdown of the industries, and there was so much things have been changed right from the air pollution kind of the aspect. So and there was many things that have been discussed related to the COVID pandemic and related to the air pollution, and then after the COP27 was also happened. So there was a different kind of the transitions that people have observed and noticed that maybe because of the change in the lifestyle pattern, people were residing more in the houses, and in contrary to that, there is a shutdown of some kind of the industries. So there was some kind of the transition of the energy usage that have been observed in the different countries. So what do you think that will our energy use change after the pandemic and COP27? And can you please describe the significant role of some statistical model to identifying the pattern or trend of the energy data at global level? And in this aspect, what is the effort of the UNEP working in the, especially in the consideration of the developing countries? So that is the thing I was just thinking about. So can you please provide some insight?
Well, I think your question about statistical models is very timely as well. There are a number of different models that we are using, not directly in UNEP, but we are working with different modeling groups around the world to try and come with to develop a better understanding of how energy demand, energy supply will evolve over time, because we understand the link between especially fossil fuel combustion and air pollution and climate change. Those models are looking at different either technological solutions or behavioral solutions that might lead us to a much more environmentally sustainable energy system, an energy system that hopefully doesn't pollute nearly as much as it does right now. And that usually means an energy system based on renewable resources such as wind power, solar power, and other types of electricity. And we see that there are different energy transitions happening around the world, and the statistical models are able to sort of track that and project out into the future to see how the technological changes might actually happen and whether that will help us reach our environmental goals. At the moment, most of the publications that are out there are indicating that the energy transition and the move away from fossil fuels has to happen much, much quicker than it's happening. I think the number in Geo6 was that we would have to increase the rate of decoupling between carbon emissions and the economy by 3 to 5 times the rate that we currently have today. So we would have to increase that rate by 3 to 5 times in order to meet the Paris Agreement targets on climate change. So the energy transition, although it's happening, and there's quite a lot of renewable energy being installed and brought onto the power grid, the changes that need to happen in terms of electrifying vehicles and electrifying heating and cooling systems are not happening at the rate that they would need to happen for the environmental benefits to happen by sort of the 2050 timeframe. So we're really looking closely at that, and hopefully there are ways that we can speed up that transition.
Considering, in addition to that, if since we know that Global Environmental Outlook Program is approach is a very multi-disciplinary kind of approach to solve the different environmental issues simultaneously, considering maybe related to the biodiversity, climate change, air pollution, and many more things. So what are the actually way recommendation of GEO program for achieving the vision of the environmental sustainability at city level to systematically face climate, biodiversity, and pollution crisis, if you are considering some urban area or city?
We did do a publication a few years ago called GEO for Cities. And what we did was we tried to apply the findings from the 6th Global Environment Outlook to an urban setting. And there are a number of findings there that basically there are some environmental problems that are more serious in an urban environment than they are globally. And so it becomes amplified, and therefore water pollution, for example, or unsanitary conditions can lead to health impacts. They can lead to other environmental impacts as well. So we have looked at this question of urban development and cities more in more detail. The challenge that we have in cities is that we have what are called lock-ins. In city governments, there may be vested interests, people who want to preserve the current way that the city functions, and not look at new and innovative ways of protecting the city and the city's inhabitants from environmental problems. Those individuals can actually, or corporations, organizations, whatever you want to say, can actually stall and hamper the environmental improvements that the city would like to make. There are also some education and habit lock-ins, these barriers to people thinking in different ways, new and innovative ways, because they've been educated in a particular system and they only know that way of thinking, and it's difficult for them to get out of that pattern of thinking to be able to do things in a different way. And then finally, cities themselves don't have all of the tools that they need to make these changes in environmental policy. And sometimes those tools are at the regional or at the national level. And because of this multi-level governance, they are not able to achieve the goals that they would like to achieve. So our main finding, I think, in that report was that there are a number of challenges related to these barriers to making progress, and they are more amplified in cities than they are at the national level, although they do exist at the national level as well.
Okay, so that means considering policy, the involvement of the local central government and the awareness kind of the things will be more beneficial maybe at a local level. So
yeah, I mean, if they can work together, which is not always the case, I do think that the environmental improvements could be made more quickly. So part of the challenge that we have in the GEO7, which we are working on right now, is explaining to policymakers how they need to have a more holistic approach to policy development. They need to work with other collaborators and other ministries. It's not possible to solve environmental problems just from the Environment Ministry. We have to include the Finance Ministry, the Agriculture Ministry, the Transport Ministry, and they all have to collaborate. And that really, hopefully, is one of the main messages that we will have to come out, or that will come out of the GEO7.
yeah, exactly. I think the GEO7 report will be solving so many kind of the things. And yes, as you have mentioned, the collaboration will be a kind of the key to solve such kind of the local and global issues as well. So now we are a bit aware about the contribution of UNEP at several global agendas. But can you please put some light on the step taken by UNEP in preserving and strengthening indigenous practice with respect to the sustainable environmental management, biodiversity loss and pollution, waste, wildfire management, for mainstreaming climate change and disaster risk reduction? So,
Thank you. I do think that, I do think that the GEO7 will help to contribute to that. I'm not sure I have any conclusions to offer you at this point, but I do want to say that in this 7th edition of the Global Environment Outlook, we are trying to incorporate Indigenous and local knowledge much more deeply into the assessment so that we understand the links between Indigenous knowledge and the approach to being a good custodian of the environment and leading to hopefully environmental improvements that will help address the environmental challenges and the disasters that we face today. Our goal is really to begin to incorporate the knowledge from indigenous peoples and local communities that have a long verbal history into the GEO. So far, the Global Environment Outlook has mainly been based off of peer-reviewed literature, peer-reviewed reports, and some gray literature. And this is the first time that we've begun to incorporate indigenous and local knowledge into the Global Environment Outlook. We think that this information will provide a different worldview of how these environmental problems can be solved, and how broadly we can change our own relationship with nature and the environment more broadly. But of course, we have to gather the information first, and we're still struggling to get the first order draft of the report out for peer review. And I think that those findings will be very helpful as we move forward, but we still have quite some work to do.
That means the GEO7 report will be also very much targeting the indigenous people, because as we understand that indigenous people are having their own traditional knowledge and practices that they want to carry forward to their offsprings and next generation. So I think that is also important. And sometimes this is the thing that policy people ignore such kind of the things that happen sometimes. So this is a kind of a very good approach, and possibly it will be very much helpful for the indigenous people into this agenda. So if we are thinking about the indigenous people or tribal people, so there is a related agenda, since we know that the people are experiencing huge deforestation, forest degradation, especially in the developed nation or underdeveloped nations. So we also know that the forests are important carbon sink. So as a climate change expert, what is your suggestion toward reducing carbon emission, and how can developing countries take significant measures in contributing in combating climate change and aerosol loading through emission of volatile organic compounds? So
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that can be done. Of course, one of the areas I think that is being discussed quite heavily in the international negotiations that are going to come up at COP28 in Dubai in a few days' time is the reduction in methane and other volatile compounds from oil and gas processing. So I think that's a very important initiative, because that hopefully will gain or help stabilize the climate even more quickly than if we reduce CO2, which is the primary source of climate change at the moment. But reducing methane and other volatile or organic compounds is very important. I do think that the issue of deforestation and forest degradation, land degradation more broadly, is a very important issue for many countries to solve, not only from a climate change perspective, because those lands can be used for storing more carbon, because forests and soils absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, but also from a food security perspective. Those degraded lands are not able to grow food and or not as efficiently, and therefore we end up with food security issues, especially in developing countries, and the poorest populations suffer the most usually in that situation. So I would say that not only do we need to work on the volatile organic compounds, reducing methane emissions as well as CO2 emissions, but we also have to increase the carbon sinks that can absorb CO2 from the atmosphere, and hopefully create more biodiversity underground, more below ground biodiversity, and therefore help us with our food system problems at the moment.
Yeah, that's great because as we think that especially in the developing countries, what is now happening uh, in the name of development, in the name of industrialization, people are just cutting so many trees randomly without understanding um, what is the usage of the land cover and what is the possible contribution and long-term contribution of that forest especially. So yes, that is the nice insight. I hope uh, it will be having a far-reaching changes in the future, such kind of these steps. So uh, considering all such things, being a head of Geo7 program of UNEP, what are the objective, approach, and action plan related to climate change mitigation and adaptation and environmental sustainabilities? How this program will help in shaping up a healthy planet for healthy well-being? So this is also our concern. So
I think that the Geo7 is a part of this picture of trying to solve climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. It is what we call a foundational part of that within UNEP. So there are a number of action programs in UNEP around climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. But we, providing the science, we provide the foundation for all of that decision making, not only within UNEP, but hopefully within other UN agencies and other governments around the world. So our goal really is to try and produce the most credible and legitimate science, the most up-to-date science for decision makers so that they can make their decisions based on solid evidence. The challenge with making policy decisions, making political decisions about programs and regulation and all of this is if they are not based on solid evidence, sometimes they go in the wrong direction and they produce unanticipated effects that may be actually problematic for the environment. So our goal really is to try and provide that evidence in these Geo7 assessments and to involve as many of the most knowledgeable people around the world in the production of that report so that we get a sort of a worldwide global view of what the main challenges are, what the possible solutions are, and what the future might hold if we implement those solutions. So that's the most interesting and I think intellectually stimulating part of our work here is to try and pull all of that together so that the other parts of UNEP and other organizations and governments can make better decisions.
okay, that's great. Another related question to this, if some early career scientist is really interested to get engaged with such kind of the program, UNEP or the subsidiary bodies, so what you wish to convey them, how to get engaged?
I would say that in most assessment programs, so the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, for example, or the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, there are fellowship programs. So early entry professionals can become involved in the assessment process. They generally will help the authors with data gathering, analysis, production of graphics, working on citations and references, and hopefully we'll also get a chance to write portions of the chapter in those fellowship programs. We in GEO have a fellowship program that's been in existence for a number of years, and we always find that the very brightest early entry professionals really bring quite a lot of energy to the process, new ideas, innovative ways of doing things. And of course, we are bringing in very experienced professionals from academic communities, from professional and government communities. And having that extra fellowship program actually creates a lot of energy in the process. So we really encourage early entry professionals to become involved in the process and try and hopefully also create a bit of a pipeline for new authors later on in future geos, because we've had several of our young geo fellows from previous geos who are now authors and who are helping us prepare the actual assessment, writing the actual assessment. So I think that's a very important area to become involved in, to be able to understand how an international global assessment is put together. On the career side, I do strongly recommend that people stay in science. I know that as you progress through school, sometimes the scientific subjects are very difficult. They're more difficult than perhaps other subjects, but I would encourage people to stick with it, to try and find professors and teachers who can really help you through the problems of understanding how science works, how chemistry works, physics works, all of these important scientific endeavors, because it really is worth it to continue in the sciences. There are many, many opportunities to make change in the world if you are a strong scientist. And of course, your colleagues in the scientific community also enrich your experience and your knowledge as you move through the different scientific areas. So it's really a very, I would say, close-knit and very supportive community of scientists who can help you through that process.
Thank you so much for providing this detailed information in this aspect. So finally, the last thing that we are delighted to just ask you, that what is some of the content you have already mentioned in your previous message. So here I would like to just ask you about the people, young scientists working in the field of air quality, climate change adaptation, mitigation related research. So what you wish to convey your message to them?
That's quite a challenging task. I think the broad message that I hope to convey is that if we are able to solve this triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, we should end up with a much more socially and economically sustainable world at the same time. So if we achieve environmental sustainability, we should have better food systems that provide more food in the right places at the right time. We should have energy systems that are not dependent on just a few countries for providing the fundamental energy sources. We should have diverse energy sources that will provide electricity and power and other types of forms of energy to us from around the world. And so we wouldn't be as dependent geopolitically on certain countries. And also the challenge that we have, we speak a lot about climate change, but we don't, and we speak a lot about pollution because it's somehow connected to the same polluting sources that create climate change and air pollution. But we don't speak enough about biodiversity. I do believe that as we damage biodiversity and end up damaging things like the food chain and our ability to produce food and our ability to have pollinators, for example, bees and other pollinators in the world to pollinate our crops and actually help us grow food. As we damage that biodiversity, we are creating significant opportunities for tipping points. And tipping points are where a very strong, unanticipated reaction to that loss of biodiversity might happen. We might have, and we are seeing some of that. with especially pollinators. The numbers of pollinators around the world are decreasing sharply, and that's affecting our food supply. But as we start to lose other forms of biodiversity, we might see more pandemics because the natural world is reacting to the loss of that biodiversity. And we as human beings might not be able to fight back against those pandemics as easily as perhaps we have in the past. Innovation has helped us through this just recent pandemic, but there might not be innovation that might save us from the next pandemic. So we really, really have to be careful about biodiversity. It's more challenging for us to study biodiversity because it's very local. And so the different sources of biodiversity are more difficult to track than perhaps climate change is. But I think that we really need to start paying much, much closer attention to it.
Thank you so much for giving us this different view to understand or think more about the biodiversity ecosystem services. As you have mentioned, yes, we have already faced in the COVID period, that was a very huge disaster for every countries. We faced lots of the problem, so many deaths, and even after that, many people were working into this aspect, and there was so much of the research was going on. Even after that, we were not able to cope up with or combat with such kind of the issues. So that takes time, and for in relation to that, we faced so many kind of the difficulties, economic loss, life loss. So that is a great message you have just conveyed, that we people think about that. Yes. So now I just wish to mention all the attendees that formally it's done with our questions and discussion, and now this platform is open for all the attendees, and you are free to interact with Pierre if you're having any kind of the questions, queries related to this agenda. So please turn on your mic and can interact directly. Or if you are not comfortable, then you can just mention your question in the chat box. We people can read it for you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, Muralika, yes.
Myself, Muralika. I have recently graduated from Hindu College and currently working in a research project on particulate matter concentration in Delhi as a research assistant. So my question to you is, how can the findings from assessments like the Global Environment Outlook contribute to more effective climate action? And what role do you see for international collaboration and policy frameworks in addressing the climate crisis?
Thank you, Muralika. Very insightful question, I would say. The challenge that we have in many assessments is that they typically look very much at how bad the situation is today. And they look out into the future and they say, if we continue on this path, then things will only get worse. And if we make small changes, then we will have small results on climate change, on air pollution, on biodiversity. What we are trying to do in this GEO7, though, is I hope quite different. I hope we can realize it, actually. It's quite a difficult challenge to do this. We are hoping to have a much more solutions-focused global environment outlook this time and push the envelope towards providing advice to policymakers that will get us to a point where the policymaker can hopefully take a certain section of the GEO7 and actually use it in their own study for coming up with a national policy to address climate change, biodiversity loss, or air pollution. We call these solutions pathways. They are a collection of actions that are sequenced in a certain way to produce a certain transformational outcome. And with that solutions focus, we hope that we will be able to also produce an outlook that is much more optimistic, that we can achieve these broad environmental changes, create a stable climate, a nature-rich world with almost no waste and pollution by 2050, that will also have more social cohesion, better social outcomes, more food security, better health, and also strong economies to be able to provide opportunity for people. That's quite a challenging task, and the 250 or so authors that we have involved in the process are working very hard to try and produce the best analysis and draw from the research that exists. We hope that this is a better and more impactful way to write an assessment so that policymakers will pay attention and will understand the importance of making these transformations, and also the multiple benefits that can result by being more environmentally sustainable. It is a hope. We are working very, very hard. Pavlavi is helping us very much as well. So we're very interested in seeing what the result of all of that analysis will be.
So, Muralika, I think you got your answer.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So, any more question?
So, hello everyone. Myself Ronak Rasama. I am a second year physics honors student. So, sir, my question would be, how do you think nature-based solution can be an efficient, sustainable method for developing countries?
I think that nature-based solutions can be part of a broad spectrum or a broad toolkit of things that can be used to achieve our climate change, biodiversity, and pollution objectives. There are certainly areas where nature does things better than our current technologies. For example, protecting coastal regions using mangroves is actually a very important nature-based solution that really is not, there isn't a technological solution that does it better than mangroves. There are carbon storage solutions if we switch from the current heavy tillage agricultural practices to no-till agricultural practices. We can store more carbon, we can maintain biodiversity, we can have better nitrogen cycles to grow food with. And so there are a number of nature-based solutions that can be a complement to what we can do technologically and behaviorally. And very often nature has a more efficient and effective solution for us than we have as human beings. So I would say that they are an important part. The challenge with nature-based solutions is people don't fully understand the ones that we have right now, and they're not well defined. So we're hoping to define them better in our assessment, and we're hoping that policymakers can understand them more as they move forward in this very complicated area of solving climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Any more question from attendees? So I hope that there is no more questions. So thank you so much, Dr. Pierre, for being with us and sharing your enlightening and motivating experience. And also thanks for your answers and explanations for question raised from all the attendees. Now, I would like to invite Pallavi for her concluding remarks. Pallavi, over to you.
Thanks, Pierre, for giving great insights about the United Nations Environment Initiatives for the various environmental issues, and especially for climate change mitigation, adaptation, and what are the steps for GEO6 they have taken and what we are doing for the GEO7. So I am really very much delighted and very much thankful that you people have considered me for the GEO7 program, and I am very happy to contribute it. So I on behalf of iLEAPS, thanks a lot for giving your precious time for this event and sharing your views about it and about your journey. So I also like to thank the attendees who make the participation well. And last but not the least, iLEAPS, who has given us the opportunity to start this global interviews series. And because of the distinguished scientists from all over the world, we are able to interact with them. Our participants also, especially the early career scientists, interact with them on this platform, and we are very hopeful that they will get bright opportunities and good directions in their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
Pierre.
Thank you, everyone.
So with
Thank
that,
you.
I'm just closing
Thank
the
you,
session.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.